One. Hey, welcome back. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Kids Health with Lawrence August. We're on episode 5, Lawrence.
Number 5. Love it.
Woo!
Love it. High five. We're
Welcome
rolling,
back.
Heidi. Yeah, it's good to be
We're
back. Thank you.
we're coming in guns a-blazing because we're hitting a heavy topic here, at least a very juicy, rich topic, and that is dental hygiene. And I have a feeling this is going to break up into several parts because there is a lot to dental hygiene when it comes to your overall health. So let's just jump right in.
Yeah,
Lawrence,
let's
how you
do it.
doing?
Let's do it.
Welcome
I'm
back.
doing really good. It's good to be back. And like you said, like dental hygiene, dental health, this whole topic, as I was revisiting it, knowing that I was going to be doing this episode with you, I was like, wow, there is really, it's just sort of like reminded me of just how deep the topic can go. So I would definitely love to do, multiple episodes kind of doing deep dives on some of the different things I'm going to cover today. So
Perfect.
that would be awesome. But I think that today we'll look at this as a great general primer of, dental health. And I'm going to kind of take this on in two main chunks, a nutrition piece of it and, the oral hygiene component of it. And kind of tie that all together today, and let me know when you're ready for me to dive in. I can
Yes, perfect. Please do. Let's do it.
yeah,
I
we're
think
gonna
you have
get
some things to share.
fancy, ladies and gentlemen. This week we're doing some screen share stuff here, so let me get my screen share up.
Visuals.
We need some visuals. Why not spice it up? Here we go. All right, so you should have
There
it
it
on your end,
goes.
Heidi.
Yep. Everyone
Yeah,
loves a visual. There we go.
there we go. There we go. So dental health, cute kids. My name, Lawrence August. Today's February 11th, 2023. I think the audience will be seeing it February 12th. We
Or
will
later.
air before the Super Bowl. So let's just right out the gate, right? Cavities. The first things that people, I think, think of, when you're talking about teeth and kids, it's cavities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so just kind of dive right in and get some quick facts on cavities out of the way. Now, this was taken directly from public health websites, so take that with a grain of fluoride toothpaste. But this will give us a great estimation of just the extent of the issue and where we're at in modern America. So cavities, also referred to as dental decay. This really is one of the greatest unmet health treatment needs we have. Untreated cavities can cause pain and infections, may lead to problems with eating, speaking, playing, learning, right? All of these issues can really dramatically interrupt life. Untreated cavities can lead to abscess, which is, severe
Ooh.
infections under the gums. I remember having that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, awful. Oddly enough, my mom was dating a dentist at the time.
And you had
And it was on Christmas break. And we were at his place, staying at his place. And his apartment was right above his office. So like middle of the night, my swollen face, he took me downstairs and about 3 a.m, took care of me. So anyway, quick aside on that personal experience. So yeah, these infections can spread to other parts of the body. Serious consequences, in some rare cases even fatal. If we're looking at children ages 6 to 8, we're talking over half. This is showing 52%. I'm going to say it's probably higher.
Yeah, I can see that.
They've had a cavity in their primary baby teeth. Here we see children from low-income families are twice as likely to have untreated cavities as higher-income children. So I think you also have in those populations some differences in diet, right? So you kind of have a double whammy, the access to food that they're getting, the type of food that's in the home. So you're seeing a higher prevalence of, and then, the resources to get help, obviously. So really you have a population in a low income group.
Yeah.
That's really up against it. If you go to the higher ages, adolescents, 12 to 19, again, more than half. I'm going to say it's probably more like 2/3 have had a cavity in their permanent teeth. And Then when you get into 20 and older, 90%
Wow.
have had at least one cavity. And right now, 1 in 4 adults aged 20 to 64 currently has at least one cavity. So it's a big problem, right? So just set that out there right now that we know we have a big problem. There's obviously more problems, but really cavities are the defining, marker of dental health. It's something that really, common. So let's kind of go to a couple other quick facts, and then we're going to kind of go through some history. We're going to do a quick little history lesson today, but just some quick facts. Baby teeth, right? So baby teeth are important. That shouldn't have to be said, but baby teeth play a real critical role in helping children, chew their food properly, speak clearly, also help to hold the space for the permanent teeth to come in properly. So we've got to kind of think of this as, early start, right? If we're going into having a new baby and we're waiting for those teeth to come through, to not neglect this aspect, both on the nutrition side and in hygiene. And so, because, children can develop cavities as soon as their first teeth appear. Okay. So as we said earlier, it's like common chronic disease among children. CDC, my favorite people, tooth decay. They're saying tooth decay is 5 times more common than asthma among school-age children, and asthma is becoming increasingly common. Sugar, no surprise. Sugar is the leading cause of tooth decay. So just another reason to avoid added sugar. As we get into the nutrition piece ahead, there's a lot more to it than just avoiding sugar, but far and away, primary culprit. And just something I thought I'd bring up here, thumb sucking. That can definitely impact dental health.
Yeah.
So
are you going to bring up at some point? Because our family, we were directly involved with the tongue ties and lip ties. That's where our decays came about.
That can be something in a future episode. I don't have that on my my list today, but yes, you nailed it.
I want to share all our journey.
This is why this topic is so incredibly rich and layered, because there's tongue tied and thumb sucking, and we'll get into the breathing component and all of these things. It's unbelievable, actually, all there is to dental health. And so, so it is common, but this can impact the development of the mouth.
Yeah.
So we want to address that. Okay. So let's take a look at one of my favorite people. And if you're talking about sort of in this hippy dippy world that I live in, and that we kind of dwell in, the holistic, health and healing world, Dr. Winston Price. He's a hero to many. Are you familiar with Winston Price?
I want to say it's familiar, but I mean, that name just sounds familier, but no. Is he with the diet? Did he do it? Work?
This guy is awesome. And, again, to this day, his legacy's lived on. Now, he was a dentist from Canada, and he basically explored the world, right? So his backstory is very interesting, and I'd love to do actually a whole episode on him. But he actually had some pretty heavy personal experiences. One with his own dental health, which he was having issues with growing up, that kind of got him to lean toward dentistry. He was curious about nutrition very early on. And a second big life moment was actually a tragedy where his own son, Donald, he gave his son Donald a root canal at the age of 15, and there was the result of complications from that. Now, again, context here, this is the 20s, 30s. His 15-year-old son died of a heart attack.
Oh, yeah.
And this obviously was a huge tragedy in Weston's life, and that sparked his own personal mission to learn much more about, dental health, nutrition, and that set him on a journey going around the world. I think he visited like 14 countries and studied these populations closely, what they eat. He took pictures. I have a picture here of some people that he photographed in the South Pacific, and we could see on the traditional diet, wide dental arches, straight teeth, no cavities, excellent health, right? Room for those wisdom teeth to come in. When I was a kid, I always wondered, why do we have teeth that we need to end up getting taken out?
Right. It's
Why don't
such
we
a
have room
thing.
for them?
Yeah. They're growing to make the room, right? They're growing up for a
Right.
reason awkwardly.
Right. And for myself, my one side of my face didn't develop the same as the other. And so the side that is broader, I still have my wisdom teeth. But
Wow.
the narrower side of my face, I had to have those teeth removed. And so we're going to talk about activator X. So throughout his studies of these primitive tribes, he observed that there's only one cavity per 1,000 teeth.
Wow.
And Weston was great because he kept like copious notes, great records. He did all kinds of, um, really elegant research that for the time was just really groundbreaking. And he defied a lot of the conventional wisdom of the time. But he noticed they had these properly jaws, faces. They suffered little to no chronic diseases. And when so the Weston A. Price Foundation was set up back in '99, and so they kind of keep his legacy alive. And going into his notes, Dr. Price noted this compound that he discovered called, he referred to it as activator X, which sounds cool, right? Activator X. And that activator X played an essential role in the maximum utilization of these bodybuilding minerals, the tissue components. The presence of activator X can be demonstrated readily in the butter fat of milk of mammals, the eggs of fishes, the organs and fats of animals, right? And it was found to be in highest concentration in the milk of several species, varying with the nutrition of the animal. And also here that was synthesized by the mammary glands and plays an important role in infant growth and in reproduction. So here's where, kind of modern day kind of caught up. That substance that was known as activator X until 2007, when the Weston Price Foundation was able to identify activator X as vitamin K2. So this is where we get into these big pieces of the nutrition puzzle. Are you with me, Heidi?
I'm totally with you. And now I'm seeing the relation too with tribes and stuff because it's their local food. They're not dealing with processed food. This is the actual food that's around their villages,
Right.
probably.
And it was such an interesting time, in history because, in this era, the 20s, 30s, and of course later, modern industrialized food came on the scene. We had this idea of breakfast food introduced, even eating patterns, feeding everybody every few hours. It was really an offshoot of the industrialized revolution, getting people to work. These high sugary foods came onto the scene, especially in the Western world. And there were so many great pockets of more what we would say primitive people. There are still some small pockets remaining, but during this time, Weston was able to visit such an amazing variety. And as you said, each of these places did have subtle nuance, but there were some commonalities in the diet that he noticed.
Okay.
And I think if I'm going to ask you, what would you say, without looking at this slide, of course, what would most people think are the sort of nutrients we need for healthy teeth? What comes to
The
mind?
fats, the omegas.
Well, that's good. And
Uh,
then like bones, what do you think
oh,
people?
calcium and
Calcium, right?
mhm.
And not that calcium and all these minerals aren't important, because they absolutely are. But what I thought would be more fun to highlight today were the key fat soluble nutrients that were really the gem of Price's work.
Okay.
Because, calcium, what's very interesting, a very interesting stat on calcium is in America, we consume more calcium than any country in the world.
Wow.
And guess what country is #1 in osteoporosis?
Oh yeah, yes, because it's not the cleanest calcium. It's poison.
Well, I would also say this. What we have is a problem of getting calcium where it needs to be.
Okay.
Okay. And this is where some of these nutrients come in. Let's just kind of get down there to vitamin K. We'll go to this last one first because this was this activator X. This one is critical.
Hmm.
So vitamin K, we know it's involved in process of blood clotting, right? It's important for wound healing in the mouth, right? So it has its own role there. But an interesting part of vitamin K, which uh, goes into this calcium idea, is vitamin K, along with vitamin D and magnesium, if you're being thorough about it, help to move calcium out of the bloodstream and into bone where it belongs.
Mm.
So what we have is two things happening. We have better bone health, better teeth health, and we have better cardiovascular health because it's that excess calcium. We do coronary arterial calcium scores,
Hmm.
right? That is really behind these arterial plaques that form.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we're seeing like a major role that vitamin K plays. We'll move up the list here. Vitamin D. We all love vitamin D. We know that it's great for immunity. We've heard about seasonally, right? But for the proper absorption also of calcium, phosphorus. So those are both essential for healthy teeth. So these components of D and K are really critical to make that calcium actually do what it's supposed to do. And vitamin A, okay? So vitamin A we want to think of as the front line of the immune system.
Mm.
And so in the mouth, we can imagine our mouth is a big hole, in our head, right? And obviously, our immune system needs to be on guard and on alert in our mouth. And vitamin A plays a really important role in that initial immune response, and primarily through the mucous membranes that line the mouth. Okay. Now, when we're looking at things like vitamin A and K, and we look at the nutritional sources, so obviously what I have on here, I've got, some fish. I've got, these are cod liver oil capsules, by the way, butter, eggs, cheese. These are the kind of most bioavailable forms in the diet. Now, there are people out there that might be plant-based, and they might wonder like, okay, well, I don't want to eat any of that stuff. Right?
Hmm.
What do I do? Here's the thing to know about the nutrients in terms of vitamin A, let's say, and vitamin K in these colorful vegetables, for instance. You've heard of beta carotene, yeah?
Hmm.
So beta
Okay.
carotene and the family of carotenoids, these are sort of pro vitamin A. They need to be converted into that active usable form of vitamin A. So what we would want to do if somebody chose to be more plant-based and are avoiding these animal foods, which I personally don't agree with, but
Yeah, that's a
and that's a
heavy.
whole other episode that we're going to
Yeah.
probably do,
Yeah.
animal-based nutrition versus plant-based. But if we are going to say, okay, this is your choice, here's the way you want to do that best. You want to provide some fat. So in the sense of a vegan, vegetarian, something like olive oil, something like avocado to be paired with
Okay. Well,
your
ghee.
well, ghee wouldn't be vegan, but it would be
Oh.
vegetarian. Yeah.
Oh.
So ghee is clarified butter.
Oh.
But if somebody was like completely dead set against any animal products, they would want to choose avocado, olive oil to partner with their carotenoids and the leafies, which have a form of vitamin K, but it's not in that activator X K2 activated form. And we need some fats to make that happen.
Okay.
So
Huh.
again, today's going to be an overview.
Yeah.
We're going
Yeah.
to do deep dives, but that's on the fat soluble side of it. Now, there are some water soluble nutrients that are
Hmm.
also important. So a couple primary ones are B12 and vitamin C. So B12 also for the vegans and vegetarians out there, that can be trickier. Probably need to supplement. It's going to be tough to be able to pull that off just through a plant-based diet. B12, it's maintaining your red blood cells. It's involved in the production of DNA, and DNA is essential for, instructing the body for cell growth, repair, and, primarily in the tissues of the mouth. Okay. Vitamin C, right? Collagen. So we know we need vitamin C for the production of collagen, which is a component of the gums and other connective tissues in the mouth. So, people out there that have bleeding gums,
Me
might
did.
want to add some vitamin C into the mix.
Okay.
Also, it's not on the list here, but coenzyme Q10.
Oh, yeah.
Coenzyme Q10 is found in great amounts as well in animal products. For those that are minimizing animal products, may want to look into coenzyme supplementation. There are coenzyme Q10 tests that you can get. The reference range, I'm just doing a quick aside on this, but the reference range on coenzyme Q tests is very low. And if you actually look at optimizing, your CoQ10 levels should be far beyond the reference range. Again, another topic for another day, but just a quick aside. And of course, also know vitamin C helps the immune system. And this also can just help prevent, gum disease, other oral health problems. So this is basic today. Okay. So these nutrients that we want to think about, ideally, we want to get them in the diet, but if some supplementation is needed, cod liver oil is a classic, classic kind of.
The book where I think I do remember that Mr. Prince isn't it that tooth decay, how to cure tooth decay naturally or something? There was some big book that was out.
There are a lot of books out there. There are books that reference his work.
I think it was referencing him.
Yeah.
The cod liver oil, that's how I kind of started turning my kids around when they were young.
Yeah, the cod liver oil it can be a game changer for so many applications. And with cod liver oil, the dosing is important. With these fat soluble nutrients, we only need so much because they're going to store in the body. So we want to just, adhere to basic dosages. We're not trying to go excessive. There are times that you can throttle it up a real high amount depending on the need. And for a short period of time, that would be where I would work with someone or someone like myself, someone that knows sort of the way around these things can help. In terms of books, his seminal book is the Nutrition and Physical Degeneration book. This is considered a classic kind of in the health and nutrition world. So anybody out there that wants to go further with Winston Price, I pick up this book.
Okay.
And if you look at his philosophy, and again, what's really interesting when he looked at like Western cultures versus these, these people that he was researching, we still weren't into the full swing era yet of the pesticides and certainly like what we have now with the glyphosate and all the environmental pollutants. We were sort of just entering into that storm. So, I'd say that the differences are even more profound today than even what he documented. But the basic dietary principles, fresh vegetables, preferably organic, right? So here's where we get into grain consumption. This is an important little nuance here. So whole grains, legumes, nuts, ensure to prepare by soaking or sprouting to neutralize the phytic acid, enzyme inhibitors, and other anti-nutrients. This is important because when we're looking at grains and beans and stuff, there are these different what they call anti-nutrients, whether it's phytic acid or what's called lectins. Those are the protective coatings that are found in a lot of plant foods. It's the plant's natural defense mechanism. Animals can run away, they can do different things. Plants can't. They can't run. So what they do is they produce a bunch of compounds that act as natural defense mechanisms. Now, a big discussion on the internet today is there are all these different camps that crop up that say you can't have any lectins and no phytic acid in the body. I push back on that because there's a lot of nuance. One really interesting idea that I would put forward, and again for another episode, is called hormesis.
What is it?
Hormesis.
With the
and Hormesis.
Okay. Hormesis.
And hormesis is this idea that, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It has to do with the idea that there's positive stress that can be exerted on the body. So when we're talking about these compounds, some exposure to certain stressors actually strengthen the body. So that's the idea of what they call the hormetic response. So, there's a lot of nuance in this kind of area where we're talking about plant foods. But if we're talking about utilizing the nutrient capacity of these foods and also preventing mineral inhibition, we want to think of soaking and sprouting.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
if you're
not
doing
talking.
like some whole grains, if you're doing rice, soak it in some water, maybe after 8 hours, change the water up, maybe do this sort of overnight to kind of prepare. If you're looking at eating things like beans, lots of soaking and preparing like in a pressure cooker is great, where you're really kind of cooking through a lot of those lectins. Sprouting is great. So this is another thing, when you have a real raw almond, let's say, and you put that in some water, 24, 48 hours later, you'll see that it'll sprout. It's one good way actually of identifying a truly raw almond, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But this is actually also going to kind of release more bioavailable nutrient aspects, of the nut or the seed. So there is something to it when you go into like the health food store and you see a little bag and it's just like sprouted.
Yeah.
That thumbs up. Right?
Oh, cool. Okay.
If we're going into fermented, vegetables, what they call
Yeah. That's a big
lacto-fermented,
one.
right? So this is huge. This also is going to make the foods more bioavailable. You can keep fermented foods for a long time, things like pickles and sauerkraut and kimchi. I love that stuff.
That was my big thing at craft service. I did kimchi bars all the time.
Wait,
I'm
so
like,
lacto-fermented
fermentation's
is
good
just,
for you. Yeah.
where the bacteria are releasing the natural lactic acids. And so what you're doing is you're leveraging good bacteria. You'll often, kombucha is another one where they'll often use like sugars to feed those bacterias. And then there's that kind of fermentation process that occurs where the residual that's left behind are all these wonderful acids, acetic acids and different probiotic compounds that are great for our overall health. Homemade stocks, your sort of bone broth kind of approach, really rich in a lot of nutrients. One called glycine, which I'm always talking about, great for hair, skin, nails, all the components of our body. And glycine is what makes up that collagen production. So, and avoiding the refined or denatured foods. And so, we all know sort of what the sugar, the artificial additives, the cheap seed oils, all of these things that are really a product of modern invention. That's the basic philosophy of Winston A. Price. Now, there's I perfectly ascribe to what he says? We're always kind of finding out new things, but I think for the time, what he was able to do, and now almost 100 years later, the guy was pretty ahead of his time and spot on with his analysis.
Oh,
and what he saw.
It's holding the test of time.
Yeah. So that's a nutrition primer.
Okay.
Are we good? You're taking notes over there.
I am.
I'm on fire today, Heidi.
I love it. Well, I also am very deeply concerned with the collagen because I'm just working on it all. But
yeah,
I know everything can come through our nutrition. This overall health of it all, especially you mentioned earlier breakfast foods, and notice how everything is like quick grains and the cereals and all of that. None of it is that's not the way to start your breakfast. And immediately, all these children have these tooth problems. Why? Because they just reach for cereal. It's just the dietary downfall of our dental health.
Absolutely. I mean, breakfast food, to go back to that, is a lot of places around the world still their food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is the same.
It's like a meal, still like fish or
We're going to
something.
have chicken, beef, fish soup. We're going to have
Right,
that 3 times a day for the next week. Well, I mean,
right.
this is very much, the kind of modern, and I would just go with the word privileged, that we're a lot of, I think the way that we look at nutrition in the Western world is through a privileged lens. We don't realize, I mean, there are places in the world where, if we touch on the plant-based thing, there's just simply not viable plant foods. They really rely on animals to upcycle, the nutrients from those, plants that they simply cannot eat and process,
Mhm.
to try to inflict a plant-based diet on, like, the Maasai tribe, in Africa. That's a whole
Yeah,
other
yeah.
discussion,
That's
but
criminal though. And if you want to get, I love to go the conspirator route, but introducing all these crazy breakfast foods and everything, there is that slow kill agenda, or create customers, I should say. And,
sure, sure. I mean,
so
the patents on, the food stuff that is out there where, this is all sort of like new technology that they're dying to trot out and put together, these things that they're trying to kind of show, like, oh, look, this has as much protein as this and as much this as this. And it's absolute rubbish. It's missing all of the nuance and all of the micronutrients and all of the spectacular components of these fat soluble, um, uh, vitamins that we just need. We're not getting them out of these foods that they're making in the lab. So,
no, no, yeah.
okay, end of
Yeah.
rant. Let's get into the oral hygiene piece of
Mhm.
this. Okay, I'm
Mhm.
going to cover these. We're going to tick these boxes. Here's some basics, and then we'll kind of go a couple layers deeper. So, twice a day for brushing, you know, 2 minutes each time, sort of thing. Common advice. I'd say with toothbrushes, important to get soft bristle. So we want to basically, protect the enamel. One thing, if we are eating sugary snacks or sweets or this traditional breakfast, one good thing to not do is to brush right away after that.
Oh.
We don't want to do that.
Oh.
Why? If we
Yeah.
are eating these foods that are kind of triggering these processes, and we start to come in with a bristle on a brush, we're actually going to do more damage at that point. You want to wait about 30 to 45 minutes.
Huh.
Now, what you can do is rinse the mouth with water, is smart,
Okay.
and then wait. So
Okay.
in terms of, be almost better to brush first thing in the morning,
Okay. That's so
obviously.
funny you say that. This is an argument with the giant and I, because he brushes first thing more. I'm like, why bother? You're going to eat.
Well, tell the giant that he is onto something. And if you are going to brush later, but depending on the food that you've eaten, flossing can be very helpful. And again, a lot of this is, how often has to do with, kind of what the diet's actually looking like. But,
Okay.
a lot of flossing, the benefits, we think flossing, okay, we're removing food particles, but another part of that is just the actual mechanical action of something like the floss on the gum, and then the gum kind of responds by getting tighter.
Oh,
So
okay.
what you're
That's
actually doing
good.
is you're giving stimulus to the gum, and the same with, I have in the picture there, the pick, one of those little rubber picks where
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could just kind
yeah.
of massage
Yeah.
the gums, and that's really going to allow the gum line to hold on
Yeah.
and
Oh,
seat the teeth
good.
properly. So
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah, I
Obviously,
really
sugary.
ride the kids on that. I'm like, you know what? I get with the brushing, do what you gotta do, but please, for the love of God, just floss often, because that changed my life, the periodontal and everything. My
Yeah.
gums were responding.
So
I'd
lots
still
of.
floss really hard and then I'd swish with that stuff you told me last, Perio Bright or whatever.
Yeah, perio wash, and
Yeah.
alcohol free, and so we're gonna get
Yeah,
into
yeah.
that.
Okay.
So obviously, sugary, acidic foods and drinks, sodas, obviously. Uh, we want to go to something like a sugar-free gum. Saliva is really important. Saliva is our, mouth's way of neutralizing a lot of these acids. Okay.
Okay.
Lots of water, and so again, this kind of, swishing and kind of let that water kind of move through
Mhm.
the mouth.
If
We
you
want
eat an
to,
apple too, right? Is that true? Or
well,
wives' tale? My mom would tell me after eat and we don't have anything or camping or whatever. She's like, at least eat an apple. That'll clean your teeth.
yeah, well, just the action. So if when we're
Okay.
chewing some of the fibrous materials, modern diet lacks a lot of these kind of chewy fibrous foods. Ultra processed foods are very low, in the kind of fibrous crunch factor.
Mhm.
There's some good stuff in apples as well, like pectin, that are very healthy for us as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good advice. Apple a day, it works.
Good.
I got an apple behind me here.
I know.
So the mouthwash with alcohol. Okay, this we're gonna get into dry mouth in a second here, but
Okay.
that alcohol-based mouthwash, it dries out the mouth, and this actually irony, right? This is actually going to drive the risk of tooth decay and gum disease, right? And of course, our regular dental visits are smart. Once every 6 months, I'd say, is a nice schedule to keep. Now, those are basics that everyone should just sort of have down. But let's get into some bonus things that I like. Tongue scraper, absolute game changer.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
got myself.
I think I remember that when we were roommates since you started
It's
then.
a great thing. And, if you want to like pinch your nose too, but tongue scrapers are an amazing tool. So now with kids, you can kind of teach them early on that. There's actually a trick for the gag reflex.
Okay. Yeah, my son's got a
So
bad one.
yeah, so with like the tongue scrape, with my left hand, I take my thumb and I squeeze it in my palm.
Hmm.
And that actually can turn down, and in my case, it turns off the gag reflex, and I'm able to scrape without any problems. I can go back very far that way.
Huh.
Try it out on your own. We don't have to demonstrate it now, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a quick little tip on gag reflex.
Perfect.
So these are some more advanced things that I really think really up the game on oral hygiene. A water flosser. So if maybe they're not as good with the dental floss, something like a high powered water flosser to remove the particles, also great, to get to hard reached areas. I think it's also kind of fun. Kids sort of like the you know breaking out the like the water pick. Electric toothbrushes are good with soft bristle, right? And kind of like hitting the gum line a bit. Again, getting a little bit of stimulation on the gum line. Okay, it's worth looking into getting the alignment and bite checked. Checking in. Yeah, I see you
Yes.
nodding.
Yes. The dog. Well, we had to go through this. My son, both of them, we didn't realize that they were overbite and they needed this myofascial release program because the jaw was not in the right place.
Yeah, and so you get these different problems: jaw
Yeah.
pain, bruxism, teeth
Yeah.
grinding, which are
And I
big
have to wear a
problem.
bit at night now, and it pulls my jaw forward because I breathe like that. I
Yeah,
saw the
well,
next slide.
we're gonna
Yeah, yeah.
we're gonna hook you up, Heidi.
Yay.
You and I'll have to talk outside of the show and about some of this stuff and go deeper with it.
Okay.
But yeah, huge component here. Oil pulling. I think I
Oh,
mentioned it before
yeah.
on an immune episode, but simply choosing the oil of your liking and swishing with that oil. This is a traditional Ayurvedic practice. And this is also fun. I like to put on like a YouTube video. I do it about 10 minutes.
Wow.
And
Okay.
what that action of that oil does, it's going to kind of think of like in your car, the motor oil, it needs to be changed out because its oil will grab on to things.
Okay.
So that swishing action is going to grab onto and unseat a lot of bacteria along the gum line. You want to spit that out into a trash can or outside into like a potted plant. You don't want it in your
Not
plumbing, people.
right. Right. Yeah.
You mentioned a night guard, right? It could be
Mhm.
something that could be useful. So I want to look at why grinding teeth is going on. That's also a whole separate category of there can be psychological, emotion, stress, anxiety component
Mhm.
to it. There can be underlying parasitic issues,
Mhm.
where these
Mhm.
little bugs, they wake up at midnight, that's their morning, and
Man,
they go
yes.
to action, and that
That's
can
it.
create this nighttime grinding.
Yeah. And
And
EMF, the
yeah,
EMF blast.
all of these things that contribute
Yeah.
to bruxism.
Mhm.
And lastly, on here on the bonus tip list is, a natural tooth powder, or what's called hydroxyapatite toothpaste. Okay,
Hmm.
so tooth powders. You can also find tooth powders with hydroxyapatite. Do you know what hydroxyapatite is?
I don't. I just know tooth powder. I had charcoal for a while, the powder.
Yeah, so a
But
lot of these powders have different like clays or charcoals. They might throw in things like xylitol, which is
okay.
actually a natural xylitol. People may also recognize it as a substitute sweetener. It's
Yeah,
not
like in
it's
gum.
not artificial. It
Oh,
seems artificial because it's
yeah, it's
funky.
not? Oh.
Xylitol is a natural substance. It's found in corn and in birchwood.
Oh.
And it is really great. Xylitol nasal spray is great
Mhm.
for, keeping from getting sick, like if you're traveling, especially like a nice xylitol nasal spray.
Mhm.
Xylitol gum, because xylitol is inhibitory to cavities, to the
Mhm.
bacterias that form cavities. Um, Hydroxyapatite is
Mhm.
the form of calcium, quite literally, that makes up our teeth. And if we're
Oh.
looking for an alternative or substitute to fluoride, which will probably be a whole episode, right? There's some gnarly stuff to get into there, but a great alternative in the sense that it's inherent to our teeth. It's kind of plugging up those the teeth, the enamel get like micro pitted. And over time, if we can help remineralize it, you can get like a nice coating, a nice natural sheen on the teeth. And what's nice about it is very safe. With fluoride, we've got some issues with safety. It's dose dependent. Um, yeah, again, a whole other topic, but hydroxyapatite, and I use a toothpaste called David's. I'm not affiliated. I don't make any money off of him, but
Yeah.
um, that's a brand of toothpaste out there that you can find that has hydroxyapatite in it. So these are some other things to think of. The remineralization thing. I mean, it's incredible what I've seen personally. With doing these changes through the years, and what I've seen through the years with clients, of where they're going to their dentist and they're told XYZ. Dental work is really expensive. We know that, right? Um, and with some dietary changes and some of these hygiene tips, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months down the line, 6 months, a year, the teeth start to completely turn around. And aesthetically too, when
Yeah.
you begin to take care of the enamel like that, and you have like a natural whitening effect, the teeth look great.
I've done it for myself and for my kids. I turned my teeth around. Yeah. And I know we're
Turn
going to
your
get into
teeth
that in future
around.
episodes. I know. But like the periodontoses, the red light treatment, but my kids, they were trying to come at them so hard, remove their teeth, root canal for my daughter. She was 9. I was like, no. And we found ozone and we changed the diet, added cod liver. I dove deep because I honestly, folks, I did not do the dentist. I did not like the dentist. I went 7 years of not seeing a dentist, having the kids. Like I was not the product of modeling good behavior for my children when it came to my teeth. So we learned the hard way everything. And that's
Well, you
why I'm
know what?
taking so many notes because I'm
Bravo
gonna
for knowing better and doing better. And to the point about dentists, it's that, what's cool now is we've got, the holistic dentistry, biological dentistry. These are really fun times right now in the dental world in that respect. So you can find a dentist that will be on board with these approaches, where they're actually really encouraging, dietary changes and some of these lesser known hygiene tips, right? I mean, most dentists are going to tell you this, right? And not many are going to sort of move into some of the deeper things. And there's deeper layers still, but these were sort
yeah.
of some of the big ones I thought we'd talk about today.
Yeah, this is great. And they have
Yeah,
choices. Choices, yeah.
absolutely. So
Um,
let's get into the mouth breathing. Okay.
yeah.
So breathing, breathing alone could be 12 episodes, right?
Yeah.
But let's take a look at this, because this is huge.
I know, and I only came across this year. I think with our first episode, I was like, oh, that's where I'm getting this. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
So
ready.
we could go, I mean, breathing, it's fascinating. And so, mouth breathing in general. So just a couple bullet points here. Mouth breathing, it can lead to dry mouth. And I've got a slide coming up just on dry mouth, but no bueno, right? So one telltale is, are your child waking up with a dry mouth? We've got to take a look at that. Excessive mouth breathing, it interferes with proper oxygenation. Then we're getting into things like sleep apnea, snoring, poor sleep quality, negative impact on facial development, right? So this chronic mouth breathing can actually affect the development of the jaw and face. And so literally the changes in facial structure. So children with a very narrow face, the chances are great that they're probably breathing a lot through their mouth. It's really worth looking at, are there polyps? Is there a sinus problem, adenoids, deviated septum? What's happening here? Maybe it's just some poor habits that, again, you work with them on breathing exercises, doing nasal breathing. We also know excess mouth breathing, as I touched on our first episode, Heidi, was you're breathing through much through your mouth, you're overstimulating the top part of your lung. So you're getting that excessive sympathetic nervous system overdrive. It's like, so now we've got anxiety, and that kind of can spill over into behavioral. So now we're just talking about breathing going into dental, aesthetics, mental health, anxiety. It's a really huge piece of this. And, and not only increased risk of tooth decay, but the periodontal disease. So the bacteria and inflammation in the mouth on the gums, right? So let's kind of go that one step deeper with dry mouth, right? Why does that happen? Well, because reducing the saliva, right, in the mouth, right? That's it. As I mentioned earlier, how important the saliva is. The saliva helps to neutralize those acids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a dry mouth, you've got a mouth that just is not going to be protected against cavities, right? So less saliva to protect your teeth means the mouth becomes more acidic, can lead to increase of tooth decay. So here we go. Kind of final concluding slide for today. If we're going to look beyond just dental problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, these are all categories that can be discussed in these future episodes. We're talking about cardiovascular disease. This is one that, I think more people are catching on to. And it's something that I've been kind of aware about for years. But cardiovascular disease research shown a link between gum disease and increased risk of heart disease, stroke, and other cardiovascular problems. Now, there's some issues with confounders where people that are exhibiting dietary and lifestyle behaviors that are conducive to poor health outcomes, they may generally just be more at risk for all kinds of trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the adult population, especially smoking. So we know like smoking has a strong risk to cardiovascular health, and smoking is terrible for your teeth.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't have like a perfect causation thing, but it is very interesting to note how, coenzyme Q10, for instance, which I mentioned earlier, a great way to treat or help gingivitis, bleeding of the gums, give somebody CoQ10. Well, we know CoQ10 is great at protecting the heart as well. And there seems to be a real connection between, the mouth and the channels of the heart. If we're talking about the mouth, like how bacteria actually kind of get through the body systemically, it's fascinating. So we go into respiratory infections, right? So that bacteria entering the bloodstream and going into the lungs, right? So then you're getting increased risk for respiratory infections, diabetes, right? So again, which is coming first, right?
Right.
It's
but
all
it is
sort of,
connected. Yeah, it's all
there's a
connected.
connection to all of this. So poor oral hygiene, overall, that increasing inflammation in the body and making it more difficult for people with diabetes to manage their blood sugar levels. And I would also say all of the action going on in the mouth when the mouth is riddled with bacteria, and the body's immune system is really doing a lot of work. So now what you're also doing is you're asking all these resources to centralize in the mouth, which makes sense because it's the big gatekeeper of the body. But now you have less available resources for other systems, right? Cognitive decline. So we look at periodontal disease has been linked to an increased risk in cognitive decline, including Alzheimer's. Now, again, it could be diet, right? So we know Alzheimer's disease is sort of being called diabetes type 3, right? So maybe diets that are in excess of, processed foods and sugars and cheap oils, right? All of this stuff. Osteoporosis for sure, right? Poor oral health can lead to bone loss in the jaw, right? So if we're not doing, these fat-soluble vitamins and the remineralization and all these things we know, we're looking at increased risk in osteoporosis. Kidney disease, right? So link between kidney disease and or gum disease and increased risk of chronic kidney disease, and things like GERD, right? So, and there's some different theories out there of, again, why are we talking about bacterial infiltration, sort of what's happening here. But you could see just a handful of issues that are going beyond just dental problems. And so this is kind of rapid fire. I was kind of moving quick today to to kind of get the overview set.
I know in my heart, though, I'm just keep thinking, and I'm just going to be ballsy and say it. I know personally loved ones, I'm thinking of my dad, that would be here if we've taken care of our mouth better, because I just feel like you can attack that oral hygiene, get these gums healthy, and the other ailments will start to be able to regenerate. They can't regenerate when this is all jacked up and fighting and infected.
This is why it's so important.
I know.
It just goes beyond like, brush and floss. It literally is this, just quite literally the gateway into our body. And that's why I think it's such an amazing area. Thank you for mentioning this as a topic for us, because now I said, okay, kind of putting things together. It's like, let's really go at this for future episodes. I just think it's an incredibly important topic, and
for the whole family, for everybody. But if we start with the good routines and regime with children, it can prevent the future of any of these kinds of ailments and diseases happening. And I keep thinking of that graphic of the nervous system, and it looks like lightning bolts. It's just all these crazy lines, but it all comes out of the teeth. It's just
you can get into the meridians, and these are areas that are way out of my lane of expertise, but just absolutely fascinating how these channels of the body, if you will, are all connected into, where people that are really, really well versed in this will say, okay, that molar, is connected into this system and will affect these organs, and it's absolutely incredible.
It's fascinating. Our bodies are incredible, and they're a gift, and they need to be taken care of. And just like the mouth, the feet have all the different parts,
reflexology.
Yeah.
And, all these acupoints.
We can heal ourselves.
It's absolutely amazing. Heidi, I hope this was helpful today.
Well, it helped you because you got the motors running, and I do hope that this triggers people to be intrigued for the next few parts, because I have so many questions. I'd also like to see your thoughts on the mercury and what was happened to us as children with mercury, and now I've been getting that removed, and how I live
silver fillings and this is huge. This is all kind of our generation, any of us born in the 70s, where open our mouth and you just see like just silver fillings staring you down. So I do think that to do it right and to do it justice, we can do some deep dives on this, because we've got the fluoride topic, we've got the mercury topic, the breathing element of it,
which is so new for me. That breathing is so new for me, and that is tangible that we can do at home and correct it at home. What's all these things we can correct at home?
Yeah.
I love how you said too.
Oh, go on, continue. But one more thing to add to that, which I don't think I had on the slide.
Oh, what?
Mouth tape.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and I had mentioned that before on one of your shows,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
mouth tape. There's actually a thing called mouth tape. Get the mouth tape. Don't try to break out the duct tape if you're doing this to your child. But it's sticky enough where it'll kind of do its job. But that is there to ensure to keep the mouth closed while sleeping. And if you are disrupted enough during sleep that you want to open your mouth, it will come undone, and that's kind of a sign that actually you're breathing through your mouth while you're sleeping. But mouth tape has and there's some studies coming in on the use of mouth tape. It's great. So this is something that I would highly recommend, and obviously at different ages for children, introducing that can be trickier. But for anybody out there, this mouth breathing thing, the mouth tape.
Okay.
For,
Cool.
for,
I
for sleep.
have heard of that.
Yeah.
I think the giant almost tried it. He had a snoring thing, and I noticed, because I'm there, that when he's stressed, it comes out round even stronger, like the stress, or when our gadgets are around. There's just patterns. But what I did want to say is everyone has a choice. There are holistic dentists out there, but there are still those, to me, chop shops, and they're usually pretty gimmicky, especially when it comes to the kids, like watch the screens and here's the fairy princess is your dentist. But they're the ones who advise to a root canal to a 9-year-old and to pull this out instead of clean out the bad cavities and ozone it and clean it out and revamp your lifestyle.
Your rule of thumb is you want to save teeth.
Yes.
Teeth
Yes.
People don't always think about teeth as living, because you just think there's these like solid things in our mouth, but teeth are alive. They're we can kind of think of that as skin, but teeth, they're solid, but they have there's life in this, and viable teeth are worth saving. Many years ago, I had a root canal done, and had I known some things, I think I could have avoided it. This is a long time ago. So, it is, as you live and learn, you try to take those lessons and apply, but absolutely try to save teeth. If you can.
Yes.
It's always
And
worth
there
it.
are dentists out there that believe that as well.
Yeah.
You just have to choose better
if possible.
Yeah. And cavities too, like the age-old thing of just pull the tooth. You can regenerate. Your teeth are meant to regenerate as well, just like your body and your organs, and they're each connected to an organ. So try to salvage these
There are
teeth.
points of no return, but it's a lot further along than most people realize.
With the teeth, you mean?
With
Yeah.
the teeth, and with these things like I had mentioned, like the hydroxyapatite, that alone is a great direct way to kind of regularly help remineralization. Again, along with the dietary changes, really, a lot is possible.
Yeah, it's all possible. Well, I'm excited. I guess that, I'm not sure how the next one will roll out, but it's going to coincide. I think we should stick to this for a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, like we'll, we you and I can talk off camera about what the next dental episode will look like.
But also, please, if any viewers, you've watched this and you've I have a few questions, please chime in. Please let us know.
Great. Like any feedback from anybody out there on questions you have or ideas that you want us to talk about in future episodes. But I think that the dental rabbit hole is long and deep, and I'm just excited about it.
Thank you so much for sharing all this beautiful information and getting the ball rolling on this very heavy, very serious topic, and for the whole family. And I look forward to the next one. Thank you for everyone who's been tuning in. And please, again, you can reach Lawrence. Oh, let me put your little things up at Lawrence@kidsgethealthy.com. Here is his website, and you can just email him on there.
Kidsgethealthy.com.
You can find me at Heidi Pop from Los Angeles on the socials, on YouTube, on Rumble, and you can email me through there, or my Linktree. Everything's on Linktree. I got a Linktree -- Heidi Pop.
Nice.
Easy peasy. All right. Thank you, everybody. And have a most beautiful day. And you as well, Lawrence. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Heidi. This was fun.
Yeah.